Trump's most awesome actions as president so far.
Mr. Reagan.
All right, before we start, I've got a great new sponsor for the show, Goldco. If you want to diversify your portfolio, protect your savings, safeguard your retirement, try investing in gold with Goldco. Go to MrReaganLikesGold.com or call 844-696-GOLD or click on the link in the description below. When Donald Trump was running for president in 2016, he made a lot of promises. He had a lot of plans, and those of us who supported him had very high expectations. In Trump's first term, he did a lot of amazing things, but he was unprepared for how viciously the left and the deep state were willing to try to thwart him. Coming into his second term, Donald Trump knew exactly what he was up against. He brought in people that he knew he could trust, and as soon as he got into office, he immediately set to work ousting all of those who would try to sabotage his presidency. Because of the way that he was treated during his first term, because of the leftists, the cowards, the deep state operatives, because they all exposed themselves during the Biden administration, Trump's second term has already, just in the first 2 weeks, been absolutely epic. Now, I don't think even Trump's strongest supporters believe that he would be able to get as much done as he has in such a short time. And leftist heads are exploding all over America. This administration has already exceeded our highest expectations. Now, let's take a look at some of the coolest things Donald Trump has done already as president of the United States of America. First, of course, I have to talk about my absolutely brilliant sponsor, the guys that make this video possible. If you are feeling stressed out or haven't been sleeping well lately, you're not alone. Let me tell you what I've been taking to give me much better sleep. I feel revitalized during the day, and I have crazy energy, and my workouts are on point. And do you like free stuff? Because BiOptimizer's Black Friday deal starts now, and they're giving away free gifts with purchase. That's right, I have an exclusive advanced invite to BiOptimizer's Black Friday deal for the entire month of November. This is their best sale of the entire year. So look, you might not be able to change all the chaos out there, but you can start supplementing with one key nutrient to improve your sleep quality, as well as over 600 other biochemical reactions in your body. This product is called Magnesium Breakthrough, and it is the only product that I have found that has all the magnesium forms in one convenient bottle. You'll open less bottles, you'll spend less money, and you'll still get the top forms of magnesium for better sleep, managed stress, balanced hormones, improved mood, and you will feel refreshed, all in one bottle. And when you get all 7 critical forms of magnesium, pretty much every function in your body gets upgraded. This is the best time to stock up and take advantage of all the free extras that you're going to get. You can only get this exclusive deal through my link, special for my audience. You won't find this on Amazon or even the company website. Go to BiOptimizers.com/Mr. Reagan. There's a link in the description below, and you use my code Mr. Reagan, that's all one word, Mr. Reagan, to get your discount and your free gifts today. And one last thing you should know, all BiOptimizer supplements are the best in class. If for some reason you feel differently, you can get a full refund up to 1 year after your purchase, no questions asked. Again, click at the link in the description below for the exclusive deal and use the code Mr. Reagan. Number 1, ending birthright citizenship. Donald Trump signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship for children born to undocumented immigrants or those on temporary visas. Now, a judge has put this on hold, but this is, in my opinion, a phenomenal action by the president that's really caused a lot of leftists to pull their shiny blue hair out. Shiny blue? Probably more dull, but yeah. Now, contrary to popular belief, there has never been a legal consensus on the question of birthright citizenship when it comes to the children of illegal immigrants or those visiting the United States. However, the law has always been applied in the most generous way possible, granting anyone born on American soil, no matter what the circumstances, citizenship. This has obviously created an opportunity for abuse, most notably the phenomenon commonly referred to as anchor babies. There has been a dire need to reinterpret the 14th Amendment and apply a new standard of citizenship for a very long time. That's a difficult word, citizenship. It's easy if you say it slowly. It's harder if you say it fast. Trump has taken bold action on this. Now, he's taken bold action on a ton of issues, but this one naturally has caused a lot of leftists to lose their minds.
Trump's latest actions include a call to deploy the military to the border, halting all refugee admissions into the United States, denying public benefits to undocumented immigrants, and putting an end to birthright citizenship, which is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, so not reversible with an executive order. It's worth reminding that the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 and overturned the Dred Scott decision that denied Black Americans the rights and protections of U.S. citizenship. meaning that by trying to undo parts of it, Trump is not only trying to subvert the Constitution, he's once again wielding U.S. citizenship as a way to shape and uphold racial hierarchy.
Number 2, pardoning January 6 protesters. Trump has issued pardons for approximately 1,500 individuals convicted or charged in relation to the January 6, 2021 Capitol protest. Now, if you have read about some of these protesters, if you've listened to some of them tell their stories about how they were treated, about how they were coerced into pleading guilty for crimes they did not commit, you would have been outraged that these people have been treated so unjustly in America. Over the course of the Biden administration, the United States, we suffered what can only be described as a totalitarian regime. The Biden administration imprisoned its own citizens simply for protesting against them. This is a sickening time for America, and it will surely be looked at in the future as one of the most shameful periods in our nation's history. Nevertheless, the left-wing media is decrying these pardons as absolutely terrible. They still maintain the delusional fairy tale that the January 6 protesters were somehow a dangerous mob of armed insurrectionists, that letting them out of prison is somehow going to create an army of vicious domestic terrorists.
It's obscene. It's a grotesque display of his new power as president to pardon these 1,500 or 1,600 people, which I have to imagine includes people that committed violent assaults on law enforcement. It certainly includes, apparently, one of the leaders of the Proud Boys. Rather fitting, sadly, that among his very first acts in office is to give a pardon to a white nationalist leader like that. So hard to imagine that we were sitting in the Capitol, the site of that attack, and hours later, the man who incited that attack pardons the people who participated in that attack. It really is a terrible way to begin, but not a surprising way to begin the new administration.
Number 3, took out ISIS target. On February 1st, Donald Trump authorized a strike against a senior ISIS attack planner. This is pretty incredible. Donald Trump posted this tweet on X. He wrote, "This morning I ordered precision military airstrikes on the senior ISIS attack planner and other terrorists he recruited and led in Somalia. These killers, who we found hiding in caves, threaten the United States and our allies. The strikes destroyed the caves they live in and killed many terrorists without in any way harming civilians. Our military has targeted this ISIS attack planner for years, but Biden and his cronies would not act quickly enough to get the job done. I did. The message to ISIS and all others who would attack Americans is that we will find you and we will kill you." Fantastic. This is another great example of how Trump is a man of action, and the left, the deep state, they never cared about doing the work of an effective president. What were they doing for 4 years? Well, basically, I think that they're all corrupt and they were more worried about where the money was going than improving the quality of life of Americans and keeping America safe. Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism and my good friend, Sebastian Gorka, spoke with Breitbart about this the day that it happened. Now, he told Breitbart that they're going to release footage of the strike, which is just about as transparent as you can get. And they did, in fact, release footage of the strike. Now, when Sebastian Gorka called Breitbart, this is what he said. He said, "We are working diligently right now, the White House Situation Room, so WHSR, the Counterterrorism Directorate of the United National Security Council, and the Defense Department are working right now as we speak to scrub the actual footage of the munitions detonations and destroying the cave complex. We're working right now to scrub that and make it available in an unclassified form so it can be briefed from the press briefing room so National Security Advisor Waltz and the president can share that." It's as if you're in a movie, but it's much more important because it isn't a movie. It is not special effects. It's real. And American lives are being saved 11 days into the Trump administration. We want the 77 million Americans who voted for Trump and everyone else who cares about defeating global jihadism to see what is possible in less than 2 weeks of a new Trump administration. But perhaps more importantly than that, the White House hopes releasing the footage will act as a deterrence to potential future terrorists and discourage possible recruits from joining ISIS down the road. You can run, but you'll only die tired. We will find you. But unlike the Biden administration, we're not just going to watch you around the clock for years. We are going to kill you if you threaten American lives. And that is what the president just proved this morning at 9:50 with his incredible leadership. Phenomenal. You have got to love this administration. How could you not? Number 4, the biggest deportation operation in American history. Donald Trump has declared a national emergency. He's building the wall. He's designated cartels and gangs as terrorist organizations. And he's deporting the illegal aliens, starting with the violent criminals. Some of these criminals, they are absolute monsters. The fact that the Biden administration just let these guys go, and the fact that some of the mayors of these sanctuary cities protected these lunatics, that is beyond negligent. I consider it a crime against the American people. And look, this is not just Trump supporters that are happy about this. I would say that anybody who lives anywhere in America who feels like there is a dangerous element in their neighborhoods or anywhere in their city that exists because of Biden's open border policies, they are very happy to see these people shipped out. And yet, according to the left, Donald Trump is the bad guy.
For immigrant communities all over the country, the raids are thus far having what is presumably the intended terrorizing effect, making people start to think about whether it's safe to go to the grocery store, whether it's safe for their kids to go to school, about what they are going to do specifically if somebody knocks on their door.
Number 5, eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Donald Trump signed orders to dismantle federal DEI programs within government agencies, including the military. Now, I read the other day about a memo that was sent around the federal government requiring preferred pronouns to be removed from official government emails. That is absolutely phenomenal. Now, not only has every agency within the executive branch and the military been forced to eliminate their DEI programs, but it has been exposed that many of these agencies have actually been trying to hold on to these DEI departments by changing the names of the departments and trying to hide them. And so the administration has sent out some pretty serious memos stating that anybody who attempts to continue these programs, but to hide them, they will be fired. And I just love that. I love that this administration isn't letting people get away with anything. Like, these slimy leftists, they're trying to defy the administration again. But clearly, this time is different. This crap is not going to fly with the new administration. And of course, once again, leftists are losing their minds over this stuff.
Chris, I think it's important for us to take Donald Trump at his word. There is no evidence to suggest that diversity had anything to do with the loss of 67 people. And what you see is, in no uncertain terms, is the way in which DEI is being used for a white Christian nationalist agenda. This has nothing to do with merit. This has everything to do, to my mind, because yesterday revealed it, because there's no evidence to kind of correlate these two considerations. He's not interested in merit. The assumption is that if you have women, if you have black people or brown people, if you have a diverse workforce, that by definition, the standards have been compromised. That is a racist, a sexist view. So what does it mean, Chris, that people are taking this seriously? If we understand it for what it is, an item in a white Christian nationalist agenda, and you see businesses and government following suit, what are we to conclude? So I think yesterday was quite revealing, and the policies and decisions that are being made now are revealing as well.
Number 6, restrictions on gender transitions. Now, Trump has declared that the federal government will only recognize 2 genders. This is epic. So here's the thing. There is an X option. I don't know if you know about this. You can apply for a passport, and you can check off male, female, or X if you're some other gender, right? I think that was initiated during Biden's administration. So the X option for gender on passports is no longer available. And this has caused a lot of leftists' heads to explode in spectacular fashion. If you go to Libs of TikTok, you can find a few of these videos where leftists are just like, I can't be X on my passport anymore. It's terrible. Now, I was actually blessed with a meeting at the White House on the second full day of the Trump administration. And while I was filling out my form online, the form that everybody has to fill out when visiting the White House, I noticed that there was an option to register my gender as X. So I took a screenshot of this and I showed it to Sebastian Gorka at dinner the next evening. And he said, send that to me. I'm going to make sure that that is dealt with. So now, I only realized later that the X option on the White House form was due to the fact that there was an X option on American passports. And I only realized that because there was a huge news story about it. And, It was being complained about all over TikTok and everything. And so my hope, and I don't know if this is true, but my hope is that it was my screenshot that initiated the push to change this on the passports. That probably was not my screenshot, but I like to think that maybe it was. And now Trump also signed an executive order to stop funding or promoting gender transitions for individuals under 19. And this, of course, aligned with his campaign promises. And now this, for a lot of people, this was one of the most important issues for this administration to tackle. There are so many horror stories of so-called transgender people who eventually realize that, in fact, they're not transgender, and then they need to detransition, only to discover the damage that has been caused is essentially irreversible. And you know what? This transgender trend, this has the power to absolutely destroy lives. And so for Donald Trump to put an end to what many people would call child abuse, that was a huge deal. I know that this is a very important issue for Elon Musk, and it's an important issue for millions of other Americans whose lives have been irrevocably damaged by this transgender trend. But of course, leftists claim that this is all horribly evil and bigoted.
What we're talking about is healthcare for kids, healthcare that their parents want to get them so that they are healthy and safe and alive. And I could not be more angry right now about this executive order and Trump interfering into the lives of my constituents and their families who are just trying to get them the health care that they need and deserve. So it's time for us to stand up with one voice for the trans community.
Number 7, federal workforce changes. All right. Donald Trump reinstated Schedule F, making it easier to fire federal workers. Fantastic. He also implemented a hiring freeze in order to return to full-time office work for all federal employees. Now, I know a lot of people, you guys are probably not going to consider this a hugely significant action, right? Probably less significant than many of the others on this list. But I actually really love this. And the reason is because I grew up watching my father work day and night to build his business. He was one of the most hardworking people I have ever seen in my life. And I also saw my mom go to work every day as a dental hygienist, which, you know, it's a relatively difficult job being a dental hygienist. And then, of course, they would come home and they would raise us kids. And let me tell you, I had a great childhood because of it. We were certainly not rich growing up, but I had a great childhood. And I know there are millions of Americans that go to work every day and they work super hard to give their own children a great life. And I personally, I put 1,000% effort into everything that I do, including this YouTube channel. Even though it seems probably sometimes that I might neglect to put videos out, I do work really hard on this channel. And, you know, one time I woke up in the morning and then I started working. And then it was like the next morning, I realized that I had worked 24 hours nonstop. I checked the time and I realized that I'd been working straight from the time I woke up. And I thought, okay, I got to get to sleep at this point. 24 hours, this is just how I am. I just like laser focus on things. And even though I haven't been putting a lot of videos out lately, I'm going to be putting out a lot more in the coming weeks. And also I have a massive project that I've been working on that I hope to share with you guys soon. But you know, when I think about how hard I work, how hard my parents work, how hard everybody I know works, it really pisses me off to think that there are these employees in the federal government who just don't work. And they get paid handsomely for just like lounging on their sofas in their bathrobes, eating Cheetos and never going into work. And look, I know that there are a lot of very hardworking federal employees. So thank you for that if you're one of those. And I do know that, okay, we all have a lazy day now and then. I do not begrudge anyone who occasionally has a lazy day. I'm guilty of taking probably too many lazy days from time to time. But these federal employees, they just don't work. And to me, that is stealing. They are stealing taxpayer money. They're pretending to do a job that they're not doing. And if you don't believe me, have a look at this video.
I used to be a federal employee, and I'm going to tell you why I don't feel bad for federal employees being forced to come back into the workplace. I worked for the Army Corps of Engineers for almost a year, and the abuses that I saw by government employees was astounding. and shocking. I worked as a realty specialist, and that is someone who manages government-owned lands. So when farmers and ranchers lease land to graze cattle, we would manage that. When I was hired, my boss bragged that it was basically impossible to get fired from the federal government, and that in her entire time working for the government, she'd only seen one person fired, and that person assaulted a fellow employee, and she wasn't even fired for assaulting the employee at work. She was fired for lying about it because they caught it on camera. When I worked for the government, we were allowed to work 50% in the office and 50% from home for the most part. In some cases, if you'd worked there, like I think over 10 years or something, you could actually work from home 3 days a week and work from the office 2 days a week. I use the word work very loosely. One employee spent his time remote working, running his own farm. Another employee bragged about drunk driving and going out to lunch with her friends for margaritas when she was supposed to be remote working. No one would log into their computers, and you can see it because they're not on Teams, and no one ever checked. Ever. There's something called the 80-20 rule where 80% of the work in government is done by 20% of the people, and this is very, very true. People who get a job in the government a lot of times find out that it's very difficult to fire them, and they take advantage of this. One employee would come into the office, his start time would be 6:30, and he knew nobody would be there. And when I came in at 7:30 and I was the next person to come in, he was snoring at his desk every single morning. Another employee would take the government truck on an almost daily basis so that he could go out to lunch and then go and take a nap in his favorite park under a shady tree in the government truck. One of the very first things I did when I started working for the Corps, I spent 3 months cleaning up their real estate files room, which was a disaster. The government is using an antiquated system that was developed sometime in the 90s and using regulations that haven't been updated since the 90s to manage our dams and our government lands. Our government is filled with the most incompetent and most lazy people and an occasional hard worker. And those hard workers are severely punished every time they outwork their colleagues, because then the colleagues realize people will see that they're lazy and they don't want to have to work more. They're just buying time until they retire in almost every case. My point is, some of our government organizations haven't been maintained or updated in so long that you basically need to create a new organization and start from scratch, because there's almost no way to transfer it over. And there's so much red tape in between, it'll never get done. But I know that our government is inefficient because the people working for it are not doing what they need to do to take care of the rest of us. So no, I don't think government employees should get the benefit of working from home. If our government is not working for us, we shouldn't have to take years to do anything in a technological age. They choose to take that long. That's a choice. So they can choose to do things faster and more efficiently, and then they can choose to get remote work back. I don't feel bad for them at all.
This video was really eye-opening for me, and I just love that this woman posted it. So thank you, Sasha the Great on TikTok. We appreciate you. And to be fair, this is the one Trump action I actually haven't seen that much pushback on from leftists, because honestly, who could be against this? And yet, they still find a way.
Part of the reason I think the president's doing this is because he has framed this question or created this image of federal employees as a bunch of slackers padding around the house in their bunny slippers, watching Netflix. I was a federal employee during COVID and after COVID. I had to work from home. This notion that only 6% are in the office. This is nonsense, and it's of course people are mad about it because they believe something that isn't true. Telework agreements, remote work agreements, schedule changes, flex work, these were all part of government service for years before COVID. But it serves the president's purpose to attack the bureaucracy, because that is one of the things that he's concerned holds back his plans, and certainly did in his first term. And so he is telling the American people, these are a bunch of lazy, people just collecting checks for sitting at home at 2 p.m. with a bowl of popcorn.
All right, before I close out the show, I should mention the whole U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip thing, because this is a very highly contested thing. And I actually really like that. I like the fact that a lot of people are like, if there's something I don't like that Donald Trump's doing, even though I'm a conservative, I'm a MAGA person, I love Donald Trump, I'm going to say that on X, I'm going to complain about it, I'm going to, I don't think the left does that because they're in a cult and they all just kind of go along with what their leaders say. But we actually push back a little bit. And Donald Trump can change policies based on how his supporters feel. That does sometimes happen with him. And I love that. I love that we can have that dialogue. But with this, I think it's actually a pretty good thing. I understand people's concerns about nation building. They don't like the idea of nation building. And I respect that, and I actually agree with that. However, this is a little bit different. With nation building, you're usually dealing with the people in the region. In this case, I think everybody's going to be moved out, and it's really just going to be Americans there building that up, probably working with companies in Israel to build up that region. I think it's actually probably a pretty good plan. It's hard to see exactly how that's going to materialize. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine it because, I wouldn't know where to start. But Donald Trump, he kind of understands that stuff, right? He understands real estate. He understands construction. He understands how that can all work. So I actually have really high hopes for this. I think he's going to be able to do it. And I think it's going to be magnificent. And that's not just because, I'm a supporter of Donald Trump. I really think that this could be a very good thing. We'll see how it works out. I've talked a little bit on the show about, interactions that I've had with Muslims who support Palestine and talking with them about what it means to have, this two-state solution. And it just doesn't seem feasible to me. So for the United States to take over that region and for within 10 or 15 years, then to invite people back in to live there, I think that they can then vet people who are coming in to make sure there are no terrorists, to make sure that Hamas doesn't get let back into that region. But this video isn't really about such contentious issues on the right. This issue is about, to be honest, it's about watching leftists' heads explode. It is kind of a self-indulgent video, I'll be honest, because, watching leftists' heads explode is just lots of fun. But the truth is, the things that Trump has already done so early in his second term, these are all extremely important. What Trump is doing is repairing our broken federal government. And my hope is that we will once again be able to have some confidence in our federal government, that the institutions that we rely on to govern us will do so fairly, justly, and efficiently without prejudice or corruption. And I believe that we're going to get there. I mean, obviously, I did not list every single amazing thing that Donald Trump has done. And I know people are yelling at the screen going, dude, what about this? What about that? And you know what? I agree with you. I missed a couple of big ones, but I didn't want to make the video too long. And also, this gives you guys a chance to type out your favorite awesome Trump things so far in the comment section below. I do plan to read through all of your comments and I respond to as many of them as I can. So please join the conversation and tell me what your favorite Trump action has been so far. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much. That is not so. Good night.
And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man.